7 months ago, I had a heart attack and they took me out of my house in an ambulance. In my opinion, the #1 contributor to my heart attack was my diet. Frankly, my diet was killing me. In this video, we're gonna cover the dietary habits that led to my heart attack and the things that I've done that has helped me lose 21 pounds and has got me on the road to good health. Hi, my name is Carl and I'm a heart attack survivor. So the things that got me into trouble as far as eating goes, let's look at my diet on a day-by-day basis. Every morning I would have oatmeal, and not good oatmeal, but instant oatmeal with sugar and all the crap in it. I followed it up at lunch with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with 2 or 3 pickles and a mozzarella cheese stick. And then throughout the day I would eat some chocolate that I would get at Christmas time. Then I would get home from work, I would have another cheese stick, some more pickles. I would then knock down maybe some potato chips if we had them, and whatever junk food I could find. I was a big fan of eating handfuls of feta cheese out of the refrigerator. Big cheese fan, I love cheese. As I found out, cheese is just filled with saturated fat, which I can't have. Friday mornings would be donuts. Every Friday for the last 20 some odd years, I would pick up donuts for work. I'd have 2 or 3 donuts every Friday. Every Friday night I would eat popcorn, a big bowl of popcorn, a huge bowl of popcorn covered with a combination of butter and coconut oil. So a lot of saturated fat there. Salted to the top, man. Lots and lots and lots and lots of salt. Before I'd go to bed on Friday and Saturday night, it was a bowl of ice cream. And then there's just a lot of crap in between there. Pizza, Burger King, all the junk food that I could eat. And so at about the time I had my heart attack, I was around 164 pounds, maybe a little more than that, probably closer to 165. Today I weighed myself this morning and I was at 143 pounds. So, 21, 22 pound loss, give or take there. Before we get further into this video, I should say that I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on TV, and I'm certainly not gonna play one today on YouTube. So the things that I'm telling you today are things that I found from talking to my doctors, my nurses, a nutritionist, as well as a lot of personal study I've done. So there's a lot of different things that I got here. However, I'm not a medical professional. This should not be considered a medical advice. Consider this more for educational purposes and maybe a way to start thinking differently about your health, or to just a starting point for you to start investigating your dietary habits. So what was the diet changes that happened after the fact? Well, when I was in the ambulance, I knew as they took me out, like this was it. I knew I'd had a heart attack. I knew everything was gonna change. And I was really embarrassed that I had a heart attack. I knew that my lifestyle was terrible and that, I'd put on too much weight. I had too much stress in my life, and I knew it was gonna change. And it was a moment of clarity sort of situation where it's like, all right, I'm gonna make the changes I need to make to put myself right. I have 4 kids, 3 daughters, and I really wanna walk all 3 of them down the aisle. And I want to see whatever grandkids they're gonna provide for me. So I was bound and determined to do whatever I had to do to make sure that those things happen. So what does the diet look like post heart attack? They told me in the hospital that they wanted me to be no more than 12 grams of saturated fat a day. And with the sodium, they told me no more than 1,500 milligrams a day. And I had no context for what this means. And as I found out, things like ice cream, a serving of ice cream, 8 grams of saturated fat, and that serving size, not huge. My pickles basically were salt popsicles. Never considered such a thing, but that was the case. There was just a ton of salt in them. Obviously a lot of salt in my popcorn. Actually, there's salt in everything. I got home from the hospital and they told me seafood is a good thing to have. So I made myself a seafood stir fry, which is one of my favorite meals to eat. And I checked out the back of the bag to find out how much salt was in there, and it was a ton of sodium. Apparently in all frozen seafood, they put sodium in there. They put the salt in to be a preservative. And so it was loaded with salt. And so I literally cried with my head in the freezer because I was in trouble. I'm like, there's nothing I can eat. What can I do? So those are the guidelines they gave me. Now, sodium changed pretty quickly. So one of the things I got my blood test. And I found out that my sodium level at the time of the heart attack was normal. So I did not have too much sodium in my system. The study that I did showed that, like, if your kidneys are functioning properly, sodium actually should not affect your blood pressure too much. Basically what happens is you get too much salt in your blood system, your kidneys react to it, and when you go to the bathroom, you urinate it out and your salt levels drop. And if your kidneys are working okay, the sodium shouldn't affect your blood pressure too much. Although a combination of salt and sugar and some other chemicals can really affect your blood pressure, which is why they tell you to be careful of sodium. So once I got past the sodium issue, things became a lot easier. The saturated fat, while difficult, wasn't as big of a deal. The thing that got me the most with saturated fat, the thing that I didn't really understand, was how much saturated fat is in cheese. And good God, do I love cheese. Of all the things I've had to cut out, cheese has been by far the worst. I sat in a company meeting one time and they had cheese and crackers in the back with like little salami things in that, and it looked so good. And man, I fought like crazy not to eat cheese that day. And as soon as that meeting ended, I ran out of that room because I wanted it so bad. It's like, oh, cheese, come on, man. And by far, that is my biggest weakness going forward. Is, every now and again I take a little slice of cheese when we have it around the house, but I try very hard to stay away from cheese because cheese has got so much saturated fat in it. But beyond the cheese, saturated fat wasn't as big of a deal. Like I figured out ways to work around it. Now it did cost me red meat, and that is a problem. Prior to having my heart attack, I found out that there was a tick out there that gave you a kind of disease that if it bit you, you would become allergic to eating red meat. And to me, this was the worst possible thing I could think of. I remember telling my wife and my sister-in-law, and I'm like, man, if I got bit by that and I couldn't eat red meat, I think I would rather die than have to live a life without red meat. And I meant it. Like, I was joking around, but I was also pretty serious about it. Like, I've always felt like if there's so many things that you had to cut out eating, life just would not be worth living. And then here we are, 7 months later, I'm not eating red meat. God is not without a sense of humor. I think he kind of heard that and laughed and said, guess what you've got coming? With saturated fat, I was pretty easily able to find some things to work around it. So I don't eat red meat anymore, except on very rare occasions. I had some beef at Christmas, and actually it sat really bad with me. It was really lean beef. It was the leanest beef I could get my hands on. But my body, I think, just wasn't used to the grease, and I felt nauseous that night after eating it. So I'm not sure how much more red meat I will be eating. And I've been able to substitute for the beef. I've really eaten a lot of fish these days. It has omega-3, which is really good for your heart. And so I've really switched out beef for fish quite a bit. And I found out that I like salmon. I never knew I liked salmon. I've had it a few times before, but I found a few recipes that I like. I've got a maple glazed salmon that I like. There's a few other things that I do with salmon. I put it sometimes in stir fry, and I really like that. And so I've just been able to find these different substitutions. And right now, I don't feel like I'm missing a lot. There's a few things, like I said, the cheese is still a pain, but the donuts actually hasn't been that hard, and I would have thought donuts would be the hardest thing, but I'm okay with not eating donuts. So let's go through the things that I am eating. Let's go through my daily schedule. Editing Carl here. As I was going through the footage, I noticed I never talked about the goals for my diet and what I was actually trying to accomplish. So the first thing, obviously, that I wanted to do was I wanted to lower my cholesterol, which meant saturated fat. So I wanted to knock that down. I wanted to manage my sodium content. I don't need it to be minimal, but I also don't want it to be crazy as well. And number three, and this is really the most important thing, is I wanted to be sustainable. Like, people go on diets all the time, they lose some weight, and then, shortly thereafter, they get off the diet and the weight goes back up. The things that I wanted to change, I wanted to build habits that were going to last a lifetime. So any diet change I made, it had to be something that I could continue to do going on forever, right? That was the big thing, was to make sure that I was able to maintain this diet going forward. And so you'll see, like, I talk about things that I'll have once in a while. And the reason I do that is because if I say I can never have a brownie fudge sundae or a hot fudge brownie sundae anymore, I think a little piece of me would die inside and it would make it hard. But if I say, okay, a couple times a year, I'm going to have a little bit of a hot fudge brownie sundae, so I still have that in my life, I can do that. Pizza is probably my favorite single food, and my wife's pizza is the best pizza ever. And so instead of saying I can eat all pizza, or I'm going to get rid of all pizza, I'm saying I'm going to have my wife's pizza on those few times. And having those things, those built-in cheats, and saying this but no more than that, really kind of helps me adjust to this new schedule. So I just wanted to get that in there, that these are the goals that I have for my diet. The first thing I do when I get to work is I eat a hard-boiled egg, because apparently protein, starting off with the protein, helps your body adjust to losing weight. It tells your body to get into a losing weight mode. So I have protein right away. I have a hard-boiled egg. In the half hour after that, I start on my instant oatmeal. So I do eat oatmeal, but I eat plain oatmeal, and I only eat the Quaker Oats kind. And the reason that is the off brands tend to have like a lot of chemicals and preservatives, and I am trying to avoid that at all costs. Like, I want my food to be as unprocessed as possible. And Quaker Oats instant oatmeal for their plain, it's got rolled, they roll the oats, they steam them, they cut them, and that's it. So I think they put a little extra iron in there, and other than that they are pretty straightforward, just oats. So I eat instant oatmeal every morning. I have 2 packets of that. I put some cinnamon in there. I put some flaxseed, because flaxseed apparently is the one like natural nutrition thing that the American Heart Association recognizes as helping your blood pressure. So I put that in there, and then I put some raisins, and that's my breakfast. For lunch is always a salad these days. 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, I eat a salad for lunch. I cut them on Saturday night, and it's a big salad. I put onions and mushrooms and all kinds of stuff in there. And I cut 4 salads. I put them in the basement to stay cold, and I ate 4 salads. On the 5th day, I have leftover stir fry. The other thing I have for lunch is I have either a banana or an apple, depending. Right now I've been eating a lot of bananas because bananas are good for your blood pressure. Potassium's good for your blood pressure, so I've been eating a fair amount of bananas. I go for my walk at lunch, I come back around 2 o'clock, I eat an apple, and then just before I come home from work, I eat 2 oranges. So I'm eating a fair amount of raw food. I get home from work, I'm hungry. I'll eat a handful of cashews, maybe some pistachios. I may have another hard-boiled egg if I'm really hungry, and sometimes some cottage cheese, because cottage cheese actually does not have that much saturated fat. So those are sort of my snack foods when I get home. Dinners have been are a little more varied. One night we do an Indian kind of thing that my wife prepares. Tuesday, I also play Dungeons and Dragons that night, so we got to eat kind of fast, so that's why we do that meal. Tuesday nights are stir fries. So one week it's a seafood stir fry, the other with a buffalo wing sauce. The other week is a chicken stir fry. Oh, and that's a honey habanero sauce that I make. And that's pretty good. So those are my 2 different stir fries. Wednesday is usually pasta. So Thursday, and then getting into the weekend, we did a food service called Hungry Root, because we were trying to get different ideas for things to eat. And Hungry Root has been really helpful, though I think we're gonna start cutting back on that a little bit and start using cookbook stuff. I think we're getting a little more comfortable with what we're with what we're cooking. And I just bought a Mediterranean cookbook, and so far I've liked the 2 things I've tried out of it. But Hungry Root has given us, we usually do 2 meals a week, I think, out of Hungry Root. A lot of times Saturday night we'll do pancakes for dinner. So yeah, that largely covers most of our dinners that we have. I have substituted lime sherbet, which I found out I really like. I've never eaten lime sherbet before the heart attack, but I found out I really love lime sherbet. So that tends to be what I put in for ice cream. And sherbet has way less saturated fat than ice cream. So it's something that I can eat that I don't feel like I'm gonna put on weight, or I don't feel like I'm gonna put cholesterol in my blood system. I still eat a huge bowl of popcorn. Popcorn is my baby. I love popcorn. And so I still have popcorn on Friday nights. I make a huge bowl. You know, it's probably a little over ½ a cup unpopped. I cook it in avocado oil, a little bit of avocado oil, just enough to get it to pop. And then I spray a little bit of olive oil on it after the fact. And I put salt on it. As I was saying before with the sodium, like my blood pressure's come down quite a bit. And the biggest thing that has affected my blood pressure, I think, has been exercise. I work out a lot, and I'll probably do a video on that. I'm not as worried so much about salt on my popcorn, but I put a little salt on there. I put some garlic powder on there, as well as I put nutritional yeast on my popcorn. And those 3 things together work really well. A little bit of olive oil helps the salt and everything to stick, and I don't have to use as much. So that has worked out really well for me. Lunch on Saturdays and Sundays are tuna fish sandwiches, because tuna fish is really good, is really high in omega-3, which is, again, good for your heart. So I eat tuna fish Saturday and Sunday. And yeah, that kind of covers the things that I'm eating. And again, I've lost 21 pounds. Now granted, that's not all through diet. I've exercised a lot. Those 2 things go together. But I found that, one, I feel pretty good. I feel strong, I feel light. Before my heart attack, I would have a hard time, like when I would tie my shoes, like my belly would hit my knees, and I would feel like I couldn't breathe very well, and that was uncomfortable. And I don't have those issues anymore. My back, I have a bad back, but my back has given me very little problem post-heart attack. Since I've gotten into shape, it feels really good. So all the changes has helped me feel good. I feel strong, and I feel like I have good things to eat. I don't feel like I'm missing a lot. Now the problem is traveling. Restaurants are hard, and you know, in September we're gonna go to Italy and Greece for our 30th anniversary, and when we do that, trying to figure out what I can eat and what I can't eat is gonna be a real challenge. And frankly, some things I'm gonna cheat on. Like, I've always wanted to try Italian pizza. I'm gonna eat Italian pizza. Some of the other things I've done is, like, there are certain things that I adore, and I don't wanna say I'm never gonna eat something. So, you know, 2 of my favorite desserts are hot fudge brownie sundaes. Kimmy and I, my wife, were in Las Vegas together, and I had a sundae with her, and I took 6 bites. I don't have 2 hands to use, but I took 6 bites, and that was what I said I was gonna eat, and that's what I ate, and it was enough that I got to taste it. I got to say, yes, I had this. This thing is still amazing. I just had my 55th birthday party, and my second favorite dessert is hot apple pie with some ice cream. And you know, that night I had a slice of apple pie and ice cream, and that's gonna be the only time this year that I'm gonna eat that. For my birthday, next year, my birthday, I'll have another piece of apple pie and some ice cream, and having those little breaks helps. The other thing is pizza, because I love cheese, and pizza is amazing. My wife, beautiful, beautiful woman, maybe one of the top 10 things about her is the pizza she makes. I love her pizza. And we usually do that pizza like 3 times a year. And so the only pizza I'm gonna eat is the homemade pizza that she makes. I'm not gonna have crappy Little Caesars or frozen pizza or anything like that. If I'm gonna cheat, I'm gonna make it count, and it's gonna be very rare. So these are the things I've done. This is how I've got to where I've gotten with my health. I'm interested to hear what stories you have about your eating habits and where you're at in your journey. If you've got any of those, please leave them down below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because it would help me quite a bit. And otherwise, thanks for listening. Have a great day.